Hello, everyone. It's so nice to see you. Today, I'm going to be talking about research, which is actually one of my favorite things to talk about, as dorky as it sounds, because I think there's a lot of important information to know if you're going to do some good research. For some background, a lot of these tools I learned by being a speech and debate coach, because research is a fundamental part of speech and debate. And also, as a grad student, I was a communications master's student, and I got my degree in communications, and it required a lot of research for my papers. So it wasn't uncommon for a paper in grad school to have like 50 to 60 sources. So I love research, and I want to make your life easier so that you can find not only easier methods to find the research you're looking for, but find higher quality research. So research. So first is congratulations, everyone. You have a paper and you get to show the whole world or your teacher how smart and articulate you are, right? I'm excited for you. And you're so smart, and I know you're thinking this, like, I don't need to reference anyone, right? Like, oh no, I have to find research to support my side. I know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to type some random stuff in Google, and that's going to do the trick. No, angry face. The research gods are mad at you. And I know a lot of students do this, just type some stuff in Google, and the first thing that pops up is what you're going to use. We're going to go over today why that's a bad strategy for many reasons, and also strategies to improve your Google searches. So first and foremost, you want to make sure you can define your search. So what you want to do is, while looking for sources, it's best to make sure you clearly know what information you are trying to gather. I see a lot of students kind of randomly typing things in, a search engine, and then confuse what's happening. So, for example, you want to be specific. If you're doing a paper on poverty, right, that's going to get you very different answers than typing in something like homelessness. And you might mean those two, you might want to work on those two things or look at those two things, but these will grant you very different results. So you want to be very specific in what you're searching. So that's where defining your search is so important. So you want to be as specific as possible, right? If your topic is poverty, are we talking about in the world? Are we talking about the United States, for children, for minority groups, different age groups, different gender groups? Like, you want to be as specific as possible. That's going to make it so you find A, better information that's more pertinent to what you're saying, and B, it's going to help your paper. If you don't know whether you're focusing on poverty at large or of a subsect of like the world or the community, your paper probably won't be as strong as well. So this is one of those things that some people are like, my topic's this, and boom. And this is something that might evolve. I've started a paper where I thought I was going to write about one thing, and after doing research, I got interested in this other, more specific thing. That's totally fine, but just know that that may happen, and that it's okay if that happens. You want to gather background information before you start doing searching. Like, people just want to start searching, and I get it, right? You want to get it done, right? If your paper requires 5 sources, you're like, I'm going to find them right now and not worry about it. But before launching into your research, it's good to do some background information research to understand the topic. This, again, will help you better define your terms. So, for example, if you're doing research on how to make a cake, I know you probably wouldn't do research on this, but let's just say the recipe tells you to cream the butter and sugar. And I love baking, so I know what creaming is, but not everyone know, right? So if you don't know what that means, right, you might be like, I don't know, and you might make the recipe wrong. So after research, you learn that, what that word means, creaming, means to mix the butter and sugar together at a moderately high speed until it's well blended, fluffy, and pale yellow. And I'll tell you, it's really good, really tasty at this point. But had you just started making the recipe, you would have ruined the cake, right? And then whoever you made the cake for would be like, why do you hate me, right? Same thing, what your teachers are going to say when you turn in a paper and you haven't done the research, and be like, why do you hate this class? Why do you hate this paper? Why do you hate me? Right? So like in cooking, in research, don't start until you have all the ingredients ready, right? Your search terms, your background information, clarity on the assignment. Know what you're doing. The amount of times I've asked students for research paper what their teacher wanted them to do, and they say, I don't know. Well, if you don't know what you're doing, how are you supposed to look it up, right? So make sure that you're looking it up so that you know what is happening. And here are some tools on how to search, right? So search engines uses keywords or phrases for their searches. So they look at every single word in the search and try to match it to articles that have that based off of relevance and popularity. So first and foremost, if something, just because something's popular doesn't necessarily mean it's good, right? That's the ad populum fallacy, right? So you want to keep that in mind. And a thing that's important to note is you don't live in a world where Google creates the same search results for you and me. The reason for that is Google's free, and a way that they make money is they sell data. And a way that they collect data is through your search engine. So let's just say Google has figured out that you maybe lean more conservative or more liberal, depending on, what you tend to look up. They're going to give you information that is more aligned with what they think you are. You could see this through social media, right? So Facebook, right? If Facebook knows they have certain ads, and I can tell you, I've done ads for social marketing. The way that ads work is you'll target an age group, and maybe you might target an ethnic group, or you might target a gender, right? A specific gender, right? These things are targeted to specific people based off of, identity parameters. So as a result, you're getting force-fed different information than other people might. I'm sure some of us have had the experience like on Instagram. You'll mention I don't know, coffee, and all of a sudden you'll get like a Starbucks ad. Or I remember my friend saw this really cool engagement ring and sent the photo to me. And for 2 months, Instagram was getting engaged. And I'm like, no, Instagram, stop reminding me how single I am. But the point of the matter is, you don't exist in a vacuum on the internet. And so specific data is going to be sent to you because of it, right? Facebook, actually, if you have a Facebook, I know that's probably, I'm aging myself, actually categorizes people based off of what they think. For a while, Facebook thought I was a woman in my mid-30s, but that would explain also a lot of the ads I was getting was for pregnancy stuff. And I was like, I don't know if I'm your target market, but still, right? The point is, even if that sounds like a silly example, you don't exist in a vacuum, and they're trying to push information to you based off of what you search and based off of what they think your identity is, which is really creepy and really kind of scary. And so you need to be aware of that when you're doing searches. So back to the actual search process itself. You want to be specific. So Google doesn't know the difference between Lincoln in terms of Lincoln, Nebraska, and Lincoln in terms of Abraham Lincoln. It's just Lincoln, right? Because it's just looking for the word, right? So sometimes it may be hard for you to find information, so you may need to play around with keywords and phrases, right? I think I have the example here, and this is true. The National Forensics League, which was what the National Speech and Debate Association used to be called. We used to call speech and debate forensics, which confused people because they thought when we think for the term forensics, we think of forensic sciences, but it actually means oratory, in speaking. So it used to be called the NFL, and the National Forensics League predates the National Football League by 40 years. It was created in 1928. But when I type NFL, for some reason, I don't get anything about the National Forensics League. I get this, I get all the results for the, multi-billion-dollar National Football League. And so the reason I mention this, while that sounds silly, is you need to be specific in what you're looking for. And what I'm going to go over in the next few minutes and next few slides are specific strategies that we can implement these things, right? So this can lead to mistakes when searching online. So there's some funny examples, right? If you're not paying attention, right, this person accidentally typed in Machu Pikachu instead of Machu Picchu, and that's what you get, right? Or you get, I was Googling dog training and typed dog train by accident and, was not disappointed. And I'm not. I want a dog train in my life. But the point of these silly examples is, how often do you not really pay attention to what you type? And then all of a sudden you're quoting information that may be to that specific research, as silly as typing in Machu Picchu, right? So you just want to make sure you're aware and clear what you're typing. So here are some tools that can help you. So you may have noticed while searching databases or using Google that when you enter terms surrounded by quotation marks, right, you might get slightly different results. This is also true of YouTube because YouTube is owned by Google. So anything that I tell you about Google searches will also apply to YouTube searches. So congratulations, you're learning a lot today. So this is what's called phrase searching. And basically this is the point, is kidney failure. If you just type it in, it's searching for everything kidney and failure, right? So it might talk about someone's kidneys. There might be an article about me written by my parents. That's a joke, I hope. Anyway, but when you type in kidney failure and put a phrase, it searches for it specifically. This is a godsend when you're looking for that really random YouTube video that has like 2,000 views that you haven't seen in 7 years, is using that. So rather than Google searching for every article that has kidney and failure, right, they're searching for an article that has the phrase next to each other. This is why it's called phrase searching. So you can see, right, you get more specific results. And this is also related to, when you put the quotes in, since it's looking for it specifically, it won't necessarily look for things that are similar, like you might find Google do. Sometimes they mean like, did you mean this? Or so we get fewer results because it's the exact phrase, right? And this information comes from the University of Hawaii. Thank you, University of Hawaii, for letting me use that research part. All right, and so this comes from the American Public Library System. So Boolean operators such as and, or, are not are very helpful. So and narrows your search. So if you want to think of this Venn diagram, if I typed in politics and youth, I'm only getting articles that has both of these things, right? So if I was talking, I don't know, about political youth movements, right? I wanted to do a paper about the, post-Florida shooting, Parkland shooting, and how the youth has gotten involved in politics, or, the last couple of years it's happened, right? I don't know what you're doing your paper on, but, right, you might type politics and youth, you'll get stuff there, which is really helpful. Or you might want to use the word or, which actually broadens the search. So here, death penalty and capital punishment, you might use or. And the reason for that is death penalty and capital punishment are the same thing, right? So there's really no reason that you should separate them into their own little circles. But, this is the legal term, right? Capital punishment or corporal punishment, right? And then this is like the term of art that we use as a society. And so they're the same thing, right? So you can use or, and it makes it that you get all of those things, right? And then not. So sometimes you'll see this happen. You might be working on a paper and you might type in something and things keep popping up. So let's just say you're writing a paper about, I don't know, sex education, right? But you don't want to talk about abstinence only sex education, right? Maybe you're talking about, you're trying to focus on the other part. So you can use the word not, because here's the thing, if you type in sex education, you're going to get a lot of articles about abstinence only sex education. But if you wanted to just focus on non-sex education, abstinence only, non-abstinence only, right? Then this is a way to combat that. So these are all hopefully helpful tools that will make your searching a little easier. Use them to the fullest, right? Search engines, they don't know better. They're just an engine that searches for things. So you know better. So you can use these tools to try to figure out. So a thing that's helpful is under Google, you can decide when you want the article to come from. So I tend to like to have things in the past year or so, which leads me to a point when we're going to be talking a little bit about credibility. So you probably want research that's more recent. I'll talk about that a little more shortly, but these are ways that you can decide where you want the time to come from, or you can create a custom range. So let's just say I wanted to talk about American reactions to 9/11 immediately after 9/11, right? I might create a custom range of articles that comes out from, September 12th to December 31st, 2001, right? So you can create a custom range to look for more specific information. If we wanted reactions, let's just say we're talking about what happened on January 6th with the Capitol, right? What if we wanted reactions in the moment, right? So we'll only look on January 6th rather than like after or before. Also, there's an advanced search feature on Google, which is super helpful. You can do all of the things I talked about before, right? Any of these words, none of these words. I think it's cool. You can use another language. So for some of us who maybe are bilingual, or a region, right? I think that could be super cool. If you're doing a research paper, like I said before, if we talk about 2001, 9/11, what if we were talking about other countries' reactions to 9/11, right? Rather than being in our own sort of American bubble, what did other people think? So you can find ways to create more information. Also, you can look for a specific file type, which can be useful if you're looking for like studies and trying to find a PDF. So there's a lot of options that Google gives you that you can use, that you don't just have to type in random Google searches. So I know what you're thinking now, right? You know the research, how to search online. We're totally don't know. Wrong. So this is a real quote. Everything you read, just because you read it on the internet. Oh, I'm sorry, my Zoom bar is covering the top, but everything you read on the internet, just because there's a picture without text on it, it's totally true, right? This Abraham Lincoln said this about the internet. So the point of this is we can't necessarily trust the internet. So you may have heard of this thing called clickbait. So clickbait wants your attention. It's clickbait. It's sort of like bait you would have if you were a fish and you're trying to catch them, right? They're trying to catch you, your eyes. So here's some silly examples, right? Man tries to hug lion. You won't believe what happens next. I think it goes well. Bon Appetit magazine. Who knew 11 things you should never put in your freezer? And then pictures of avocados, right? I love all of these. Like why BuzzFeed doesn't do clickbait. That's not true. 42 wrestlers you won't believe existed. And then my favorite, the sheep did one thing that most people will never be able to do. I do want to click on that article. That sheep has me very intrigued. But all joking aside, clickbait is really problematic because they create these dramatic titles, right? You see this on YouTube. Like every famous YouTuber has like a, has a, very dramatic title. And part of that is because they are trying to get your attention. Because how do websites make money? Views, right? They make views because they can tell advertisers, yo, we had 400 D Toledo students looking at this article, right? So like you should pay us money. That's also why on a lot of these websites, they'll do multiple slideshows because every time you click to next page, it's a new view. So you as one person can count as multiple page hits. So that's a trick that they use to get you, is they want money, right? They want attention. And, that's just what it is, right? This isn't me being conspiracy. That's why they do it. That's how the marketing departments work. So why would the internet lie to you? For money, right? That's a big part of it, is they want to try, does a particular website necessarily care how they get views? No, right? There's actually many podcasts of people who write fake news on purpose because it generates a lot of traffic, especially when it gets shared a lot of times on the internet, like on Facebook or things like that. So you want to worry about the credibility of sources. So a couple things to look at is a .com is a commercial website, right? So one thing I want to be clear is that just because it's .com doesn't mean you can't use it, but be more vigilant. Don't just, right? And there's some .coms that are really trustworthy. Like there's a lot of great papers in this country that, are .coms, but just because it's a .com, right, doesn't mean you can't use it, but you need to be more vigilant. You can't just use it because you want to. There's .edu, which means it comes from an educational resource. .gov comes from the government. .gov is great for like statistics. Like if you want statistics about like the country, it's a great place, like trying to find .gov resources. .org means it's a nonprofit organization. So, American Red Cross, PBS. .org still, they could have self-serving purposes, right? Because they still need to survive on donations, but they're still probably going to be more trustworthy than maybe a .com. And then last, this one you very rarely see, but .mil, right? It's a suffix used for the armed forces. But you want to pay attention to the thing itself, right? You want to pay attention to what is the actual website. And .net is a network. So, it's kind of a catch-all for something that doesn't fit into any of these categories. And all this came from the University of Georgia. Thank you, University of Georgia. Again, you want to pay attention to the source. couple other things that you might want to pay attention to. We're not going to watch this video. I will send it to your teacher so that they can look at it. But I think this is a great video. It's deciding who to trust on Crash Course. I love Crash Course. Oh no, don't play. I didn't tell you to play. So a couple things is you might want to use Google Scholar. Google Scholar is great because everything is a peer-reviewed study. What a peer-reviewed study is a study that, let's just say I want to get submitted to a journal, right? Mr. Levita is trying to get published in, I don't know, some journal. I send my work to the journal, and for something to be peer-reviewed means that people on the board of that journal will read it, and usually they do it what's called a blind peer review, so they don't know, who I am. And they read it and then they write feedback. And if they like it, they might accept it. They may ask me to edit it. And pretty much it means it's a higher bar for these particular things, for these searches, right? Because they had to have eyes look at it, right? This wasn't just some random, cats are the best, blog that I might have, right? It's been peer reviewed. Other eyes have looked at it. And that leads you into some things about credibility. So when we're looking at, credibility, is it recent, right? Is it a year old or is it 20 years old? A lot of people ask me, like, what is the bright line for too soon or, too old or not old enough? That's really up to you. But the thing is, like, what I would say is it's really the topic itself. So for example, legal stuff, right? A lot of legal stuff hasn't changed recently. So, something from 1990s could be fine, right? Philosophy. It's not like we have brand new things about, Locke, because Locke is, centuries old. However, right, it depends on what you're talking about, right? Imagine searching coronavirus, November 2018. You're going to get nothing related to the pandemic. And so it really pertains to what, the thing you're looking at is. And so you want to pay attention to that. Obviously, generally speaking, the newer, the more recent, right? Because you can build on new data. So you want to try to do something sooner and more recent. Another thing to think about is the author. Most websites will allow you to click on the author and read about the author. And you can see their past. Do they write about this topic a lot? Or is this their first time, right? I remember I found an article I really liked. It was talking about, economics. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. And I clicked on it, and the author had written primarily about fashion. Now, I think fashion is a really cool thing to write about, but all of a sudden I was like, I don't know if I should be quoting this economics, article by a person who doesn't have a degree in economics, who has written predominantly about fashion, right? And vice versa, right? If an economics person were to write about fashion, I'd be like, no, don't do that, right? So you want to see their past, right? You can, one thing I like to do is actually Google search the author to see what comes up about them, right? Have they gotten in any trouble, or are they considered pretty reputable, right? I know this is silly, but if the author has a Wikipedia page, I'm usually probably like, okay, they're probably legit that they have their own Wikipedia page. Another thing to look at is the website itself. Does it look legit? Right? Does it look like it's from 1992 and poorly put together? If you go to the bottom of the website, there might be a copyright. Is that copyright recent, right? Is it 2021, or was the last time the website was copyrighted in 2015, right? It means it's 6 years out of date. So you just want to keep those things in mind when you're doing your search. And so no, John Green, don't. Okay. So I know you're thinking, you found research, now you can just copy and paste your stuff to your paper, right? Because it's, it's due in a minute. For the third time, no, you got more stuff to do. Plagiarism. So I'm a stickler about this, and your teachers are too. I'm going to be very serious the next few minutes, because this is a very serious thing. And I know some students at our school don't think that. They let their tutors write papers. They just copy and paste stuff. And honestly, if you do that, you disgust me. And I'm sorry if that sounds really aggressive, but it is academic dishonesty. And if you're in an academic institution, that's what matters, at the end of the day, right? Is that you do your own work that you say it is. So I'm joking that you won't be executed, but like, it's stealing, right? You can get kicked out of university, lose access, you can fail classes. I used to teach at CSUN. I caught a student plagiarizing. She failed my class and then had to take one more semester of school because she didn't get those credits. So she wasted $4,000 for a semester, and she went to a very, cheap university comparatively. Do you want to spend $30,000 because you didn't have the energy to actually quote? And here's the thing. A lot of this presentation are things I found online, but I source them, right? That's why I think them, because that's what plagiarism is. It's not necessarily creating everything on your own, but attributing it to who it should go to. So please don't do this, right? Don't put your teachers in this position, right? Teachers hate when they find their students cheat. But at the end of the day, first, we're honest. Like, what's the whole point of education if we can't be honest? And second, if it's me worrying about me not being honest and maybe losing my job because I ignore your cheating, right? I'm gonna pick the thing that's gonna make sure I still, can pay my bills. So like, here's the thing, just be honest. So it's very easy for teachers to find, right? If we know your writing style, if that dramatically changes in the middle of the paper, right? Or if you turn it into, we can submit it to places where we can check for plagiarism, right? And here's the thing, it's actually possible to plagiarize yourself. You wanna make sure it's unique to the class. Now, here's the thing, your teacher may say it's okay to use something you've used for another class, then that's not plagiarism because you've gotten express permission to do it. But that actually happened to me when I was a professor. Was a student did a presentation in my class, and I had them submitted to turn it in, and she had plagiarized herself for another class. And that's technically lying because each when you submit something, it's supposed to be considered a work for that class and for that assignment. So, that's just something you want to be aware of. Generally speaking, like, this is not seen as like bad because like clearly you weren't just stealing from someone else, but you want to just make sure that you're not just recycling papers that other people, that you've submitted to other classes, right? And again, just submitting what your tutor wrote is plagiarism. If you're caught, it can lead to all the consequences I said above, and that can actually negatively impact your tutor. I know like schools that will blacklist tutors because it was found out that so if you care about your tutor and you don't want them to lose their job, right? Don't put people in these positions. Like, don't, there's no reason to. So here are the 7 deadly sins of plagiarism. Failure to give proper credit, right? It's like, don't present your research as your own. And that's why we want to cite things, right? Copying material without citing it. Failure to cite even a few words of borrowed language. Here's the thing, it's okay to quote sources. I, as a teacher, I'm not going to be mad at you if you quote sources if I know where it's coming from. And that's why plagiarism boggles my mind that I get when students don't cite, because we're not saying don't use the information, just tell us where it's coming from, right? So if it's coming from a place, and here's the thing, when you're thinking about citing, did I know this beforehand? The answer is no, right? So I'll get papers where someone's like, this costs the United States $90 billion. I'm like, how did you know that it costs us? Did you wake up one day and that information was transmitted in your brain? And here's the other thing. You probably also look more impressive if you have you have multiple pages of cites, right? Or if you have more citations, right? So just by citing, you alleviate yourself from plagiarism. You give credit where credit's due. And on top of it, it looks like you know what you're doing. And it makes us actually trust you more that you got information from another person rather than just from you, right? So, and again, I'm citing my sources. This comes from the Cook and Stedler. And this is my work cited at the bottom. So thank you, Chicago. So takeaways from this presentation is come up with a plan for research, which includes finding background information, and an organizational system is also important. I like to do research in batches. So like I will find a bunch of articles I like, and then I'll save them all. I actually will download them to my computer and put them in a, because when you go to print, you can actually save stuff as a PDF rather than printing it. And I will just put it all in a folder, and then I'll read it all. So I do it in steps. I'll do, find, read, and then I'll discard what I don't need. Also, a thing that sometimes students do when they're doing research is they want to read the whole article. If like after a paragraph you realize the article's not going to work for you, don't waste your time reading it. And that's coming from me, right? If it's not going to serve you, don't waste your time, right? Time is limited, and that's why we do a lot of the bad searching practices we do. You could use Boolean operators or advanced search filters to find exactly what you're looking for. Assess the credibility of the information you find. Where does it come from? Can we trust the source it's coming from, right? Look into the author. When was it published? What website is it published on? What's the goal of this person for publishing this information? Are they a journalist that has standards that they need to uphold, or are they just some random person who wants to piss people off on the internet because it gets them money, right? The higher quality research you find, the more confident you can be in your paper and argument, right? I see sometimes students struggle with their papers because they're not confident in what they're saying. But if a bunch of smart people are agreeing with your ideas, right, that's probably a good sign that you too can be confident. And please, for the love that is all that is holy, like, don't properly cite your sources so you don't plagiarize. It is so easy not to plagiarize. It's stupid easy not to plagiarize. So there's no excuses. But on that note, I just want to say I'm excited for any of you who are watching this that you get to do research. I know a lot of people hate research, but I think it's a really cool opportunity to learn on your own terms, right? You get to choose what you're learning and you get to choose what you're writing about. So good luck on your paper. And if you need any help, you can always email me at the Writing Center and we can try to help you. I hope you have a lovely day.